otherwise have influenced you or have you enjoyed reading?
Which big Jews have influenced me?
Or others.
Or others? Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll start.
Not particularly.
Well, okay. We'll start with Gentiles. Vladimir Nabokov, married to a Jewish girl though. Vera Nabokov was Jewish. Let's see, more Gentiles. Well, the current crop of immigrants I love. Chang-Rae Lee, who was my mentor. Junot Diaz. I know somebody's going, Junot Diaz! Thank you, yes, Junot Diaz. Jhumpa Lahiri from the subcontinent. Moshin Hamid from a different part of the subcontinent. Always love old school Salman Rushdie's wonderful. New school too. Let's see, some more Jews. Philip Roth. Saul Bellow. I teach a class called The Hysterical Male at Columbia that features a lot of these crazy critters. Mordecai Richler, the Canadian. Love him. There was a Barney's version starring one of my favorite actors, Paul Giamatti, recently. Terrific. Run, don't walk, or Netflix, don't walk, to get that film. It's terrific. That's what's amazing. Literature keeps getting better and better, but nobody reads it. So. Except for you guys. Thank you. Keep hope alive.
It was really fun to hear you reading it, and I'm curious, I noticed that when you read Eunice, you added sort of all the likes and the modern kind of teen speak, but that wasn't there in the written word?
Like no,
and I really didn't do that when I was reading it, so I'm curious as to why leave that out? Since obviously that's how you met her.
Well, I love Eunice, and I wanted her to come across as one of the smartest people of her generation, and she is. She went to Elderberg College. She has a major in images and a minor in assertiveness, and that's about as smart as it gets in this future. And she speaks, Lenny calls her my reluctant sentence monger because her sentences have a subject and a predicate, and that's really unusual in this future. But when I wanted to convey the fact that there's a difference between Lenny and Eunice, so in the reading, I use a slightly different voice for her. I hope she doesn't mind, but that's I want to make sure that people understand that she is, from a post-literate world, whereas Lenny is deeply immersed in the literate. But that's a great question. Thank you for noticing that.
Yeah, having just heard you read it and read these characters that you obviously know so well, how do they deal with the audiobook version?
How do they deal with the audiobook version? You sell the rights and then somebody makes the audiobook. I don't have anything to do with it. For Absurdistan, they had Artie Johnson, who played Hitler on Laugh-In. They had him do it. He did 18 hours in a thick Yiddish accent, and then he died the next day. So I don't want to kill anyone else. So let's keep this on a literary level and not record it, because nobody can get through all these accents. But it won an award. It won the Emmy of audiobooks. What time is James Franco supposed to get here? James Franco is inside Felix. Felix channels James Franco. Oh, he was so cute.
What was your inspiration for the character Misha in Absurdistan?
Right, the character of Misha. There's Misha, my 325-pound character in Absurdistan with a bad circumcision. Where do I make these things up? Ouch. There are a bunch of guys. Characters are usually conglomerates of different individuals. But there was one dude who I went to Oberlin Institute for Special People in Ohio, and there was one guy there who was. There were a bunch of little Russian nerds, like me, walking around and kind of thinking LSAT, MCAT, and this guy was just stoned out of his mind all the time. He was raising these psychedelic frogs that all the chicks loved to lick and get high on, and he was like this minor Lothario. And to me, he represented a new kind of immigrant. The immigrant that didn't give a damn what his parents wanted, just wanted to have a fat time, so to speak. And so that was one of the inspirations for Misha Weinberg. Later on, the actual guy lived a couple of blocks away from me, and he would always see me on the street and say, "Who the hell is that idiot Misha Weinberg in Absurdistan?" Which goes to show you nobody ever knows who they are in books. sir.
Who was bombing who when the ferries got exploded? When that one ferry got hit, I didn't understand it.
Yeah, I didn't either. I don't know. I don't know who's bombing who. When war breaks out, it's very hard to tell who's bombing who. So I would imagine it's the corporation, Statling Wapichan Corporation, serviced out to the American Restoration Authority. But that's just a conspiracy theory. The point of the book is that nobody knows anything because journalism has ceased to exist. So in the end, we never really find out what happened because nobody really finds out what happened because people are too busy, using global teens to show off their new muffin tops and stuff. Which apparently I don't have because I'm so thin now. Yes.
One of the modern trends that you don't exaggerate or mention in the book is obesity. Instead, you actually concentrate on
The what city?
obesity.
Obesity, right.
And one, you actually go on with anorexia with some
Right.
characters. Did you consider talking about that?
Well, I thought I'd finished my fatty novel with Absurdistan, and that required so much research. I had to go to conventions of large individuals. I had to go to Oklahoma. That was interesting. It was a lot of big people, and some of the questions were like, "Yo, Mr. Shteyngart, who fictionated your book?" So, I went to Russian bathhouse where I saw a lot of jiggling. Almost got punched in the face there a couple of times. I did a lot of research, so I think, okay, I'm finished with obesity. I want to do a thin person's novel. And Eunice clocks in at about 78 pounds. That's amazing to me. That's great. So I had a lot of people sort of model themselves for this role, and I was just 78 pounds. God, if this ever gets made into a movie, we're going to find some thin person.
How did you understand the female psyche so well in Super Sad True Love Story?
How did I understand the female psyche so well? Thank you so much for that. I've known women all my life. My mother, my grandmother, but also I love young people, and I like to hang out with them. And I teach at Columbia, so you just walk down the quad and you listen to young people talk. And so I heard all these expressions like JK, and I thought, which means just kidding, and I was like, that is so lame, JK. So in my book it became JPF, which means just butt fucking you. Much, much better. And I encourage all of you to use that in daily conversation with your superiors at work, your relatives, your friends. Hey George, I'm just butt fucking you, don't worry. Then Timatov, think I'm about to openly vomit. I mean, I've had a lot of fun, and it's fun. I don't say that this is bad. I'm not a Luddite. I understand that this is progress, that we're all moving in this direction where language will be a bunch of acronyms, and we'll have this kind of Orwellian newspeak. That's fine with me. I just want to learn the language. So when I show up at Columbia, I'm learning more than I'm teaching. That's a fact. Because I'm frequently drunk.
Regarding the Asian voice taunting Lenny about his average, how much is that rooted in the reality of your experience at the Bethlehem Science School of Tribeca?
Okay, so there's a couple of scenes that are pure autobiography. That is one of them. I don't know if they mentioned Oberlin. I think like Oberlin was like too low off their radar. I think it was like NYU probably, and what else? Like Colgate maybe. I don't know. Oberlin was like too below even speaking of. But I remember I was so hurt, and I was thinking, wow, I'm such a loser. And then I did go to Oberlin. And I majored in Beatles studies with a Ringo concentration, and it all worked out. I'm a real Beatleologist now, and I teach at the Sorbonne, Studia de Ringo. But it was tough. That Long Island Railroad messed me up. And there was a girl, I think her name was Eunice, who stood up for me. And I fell in love with her. I thought, thank you. And so that scene became the opening scene to this. Write what you know, as my high school teacher told me. Yeah.
Okay, well, first of all, as you know, just to correct the woman, the school in freshman was down on East 15th before it went to Tribeca. But,
Stuyvesant High School.
yes. But seriously, and yes, I'm a Stuyvesant. Seriously though, can you talk a little bit about current interest in dystopias?
Current interest in dystopias. Yeah, well, they're big, a lot of novels are coming out with dystopic themes. Can you name one? I'm forgetting them all. Infinite Jest, thank you. I think Welcome to the Goon Squad ends in a fairly dystopian way, although not as dystopian. Who? What?
Chronic City.
Chronic City by Jonathan Lethem is another dystopian novel. Well, these aren't happy times exactly. Now, I was born in the Soviet Union and then moved to a Hebrew school in Queens, so dystopia is my middle name. Dystopia is all I know. You know, I don't know anything else. I went from Lenin party member to Baruch Atah and like that. And so the experience had a big kind of impression on me. I never trusted anything ever again. You know, we went from Lenin to Reagan. So, but why the trend now? Because things don't look so hot. You know, this book doesn't even deal with one of the worst things that's happening, which is it's getting really warm. Have you noticed that? Felix, my baby, who's all fur, is dying. He's wilting. The summer, we hope he can survive another summer, but with all that fur, it's hard. And you notice the oceans. You know, I live near the East River. I go and look at it. It's getting there. Pretty soon we'll be swimming to work. So the environment is one of the scariest things that we have in front of us, especially people who are living in a coastal city like New York. But I didn't have time for that, nor did I have the bandwidth of information to do it. Most of this book was researched by a very attractive intern, a very tall, handsome intern, whom my friends labeled the man-turn. Caliente, he was muy caliente. And now he's gone off to do a book of his own, which is going to be hot. And he told me all about how, a cell becomes a law, and we went on the intertube together and got the Facebooker. For those of you who have Facebooking technology, come to my page. Felix all the time, plus the recent food I ate. It's fascinating. It almost makes me want to stop writing books, because what's the point, Got Felix, yeah. I don't remember what the question was, but thank you. More questions or problems? Yes?
How do your parents or your family members think about the way you represent them in your book?
What do they think about the way I represent them in the book? Their concerns are more global. Now, my father wasn't a janitor in America. He got lucky and actually worked as a nuclear engineer, and my mom also had a fat job. So they're not like these people. But my father's concern is more ethnic, I think. With each book, the question is, will this be good for the Jews? And as we have seen, it won't be good for the Jews, and it really won't be good for anybody. Jews, Armenians, Canadians, Koreans in this one, Salvadorans, Methodists. I mean, the list of people in my books who have gone down is fairly long. I'm all about equal opportunity. I don't like ethnicity. I don't care. I just like everybody, So, but my parents don't, the Jewish parts, they're very upset of. So no more bungled circumcisions in book number 4, I promise. Well, maybe one. I don't know, we'll have a Facebook poll. We'll kind of crowdsource it. Do you want more bungled circumcisions or more weenie dog scenes?
Are you at liberty to talk about book number 4?
Yeah, book number 4. Well, I've written 3 novels, so it's time to stop, How many can I write? So book number 4 will be a kind of memoir. Talking about my sad childhood in the Soviet Union and also in Queens. Trips to Disney World that didn't quite work out. Bad experiences at McDonald's. The first pizza I ever ate, which I almost choked off the cheese because I didn't realize that it wouldn't stop. Going to Hebrew school where people hated me so much I had to pretend I was born in Berlin because nobody liked Russians back then. All those movies, Red Dawn, Red Gerbil, Red Hamster, those couldn't have been good, Evil Empire, all kinds of crazy adventures that I had. It'll be like, think of David Sedaris, but with some serial serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
It sounds a little bit like Angela's Ashes. So.
It sounds like Angela's Ashes with slightly less child abuse. Yeah, this is how we're going to focus group this thing. Like, can you put in 20% less child abuse, but a little more dachshunds? Can you do that? Because then we can sell it to Oprah.